being something something good happens to you and you show gratefulness to Allah. In fact, we even say something bad happens to you, find the good in it and be grateful to Allah. That's what we say. Allah then says to both, to Dawood and his family now, Sulaiman, the next generation, he says to them, "I'malu ala Dawood shukra." He says, family of David, family of Dawood, do shukr. It's in the same ayah where the factory was being described. Family of Dawood, do shukr. Allah is not telling them to sit there and say Alhamdulillah. That's already understood. He's not telling them to say shukr. He's telling them to do shukr. So what in the world is doing shukr? I mean, when we think of do shukr, we say Alhamdulillah. We say something. But Allah is telling him to do something. Not say something, to do something. And then he ends by saying, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِي الشَّكُورِ. And how few of my slaves tend to be well and grateful, like deeply grateful. Shakur is mubalagha, so extremely grateful or truly grateful. How few turn out that way. In other words, gratitude to Allah is more than lip service. Gratitude to Allah is more than a reaction. Allah is inspiring both of these prophets to produce something, to take the resources that they have, melt them, make them into precise cuts, turn them into something else, build and build and build. And that building, that act of building and developing, that act that is going to go far beyond their lifetimes. Because once a factory is built, the factory owner can die, the factory will keep going. Once the car manufacturer has designed the engine, once the engine has been designed, it will be enhancements to it, but the engine's already there, the car industry will go on. The inventor will not remain, but the invention will remain. That's the history of the world. There's a reason we have the wheel. The guy who figured it out is not here, but we're all using it. Allah is telling both of these prophets, whatever resources are at your disposal, when you make full use of them, when you make full use of them, and they know everything they're building, everything they're amassing, they're doing it for a greater service. They're not doing it for themselves. Then this is actually shukr. That's actually, you're doing shukr. So we have this passive concept of shukr, which is, hey, let's just say one of you in this community owns a small restaurant. I'll give you a restaurant. I'm in the restaurant mood, so I'll give you a restaurant example. This is a small restaurant you own, right? And you're like, it brings enough money, it pays the bill, Alhamdulillah. Somebody comes to you and says, hey, I think you can improve the quality of this place. I think you can expand it. I think you can brand it better. I think you can branch out. I think you can open up multiple chains. You can become a friend. This can become 50 restaurants in 5 years. That can happen. You have the quality. You can, no, I just want to be grateful for what I have. Alhamdulillah, Allah has given enough. No, don't bother me with these things. I don't want dunya. But imagine for a moment if there are 50 restaurants, and then one day there are 500 restaurants, and there are 5,000 restaurants. Just imagine. Just use your imagination a little bit. Think big. One day when it's 5,000 or 50,000 restaurants, isn't that competing with McDonald's? Isn't that funding going to help influence foreign policy? Isn't that going to influence how a campaign is going to run? And a political campaign is going to run? Isn't that going to replace the need for standing outside of an embassy and yelling and screaming and then laughing sitting inside? Is that not going to replace it? Is that when you're building something, if you're building it for yourself, if you want to build yourself a nicer house with a bigger restaurant, you're going to get a nicer car. It's still a car. It's still got an engine. It's still got a seat. It's still got a steering wheel. It's just a nicer steering wheel. It's just a little cushier seat, but you're still sitting on it. You can't cut it open and feel the material inside. It's still the same. But if you have a vision to build something big and expand it. Now imagine, just for that, take that one example for a moment of the restaurants. If a Muslim owned 5,000 restaurants, how much more sadaqah are they able to give? How much more zakat are they giving? How many more people have halal jobs because of them? How many more people are now being influenced by an ethical business that is not involved in bribery? It's not involved in buying off politicians. It's not involved in usurping the infrastructure of a community. I was watching a recent exposing documentary on dollar generals in this country. Wherever they go, they destroy local businesses. There are actually food shortages in the United States where there's a Dollar General because the local mom and pop shop that's trying to sell some vegetables can't survive anymore. So now people have to drive 15, 20 miles to buy basic fruits and vegetables because a Dollar General exists. And now people are being malnourished in this country because of big business. Because of big business. Now imagine if Muslims understood that we are, just the Muslims in the United States, even for starters, we're in a country that is built on entrepreneurship. The entire thing is built on entrepreneurship. There's old money and there's new money, we all know that. And if we understood that this resource and this opportunity that Allah has given us, we have to put it to work to show shukr to Allah, we would be part of an economic engine. We would be part of we would be a machinery by ourselves that is difficult to mess with. It's difficult to mess with. This is something Allah taught us in the Quran. You can't just be grateful, you have to do grateful. I'malu shukran. You have to do grateful.